something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hairloss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
God, I really hope Morty's still holding on. What's happening, guys?
Hello, everyone.
How are you, Joe?
Can't complain.
There was a little bit of a sigh of life there.
Well, isn't there always at this age? I've crossed that threshold, my friend.
You know,
I'm on your side now.
Oh my God, that is true. That is true. Touche.
I've come to join you on the other side.
Touche. So I went to get some Powerball tickets. I figured, you know what? It's a lot of money. You got to be in it to win it. And I'm at the gas station yesterday, and I gassed up my car. It cost me $160, but that's another story.
Yep.
And I back up into a parking space, and I get out of my car to get the Powerball tickets, and there is a, 22, 23-year-old girl, homeless chick, who has a dish TV satellite dish connected to her back somehow, strapped onto her back, walking around.
Well, she likes making sure that she gets the game.
I go in to get the Powerball tickets. Guy comes in, looks like he's with a young kid. I don't know if it's his son or whatever. Then he asks if he can get to the Powerball tickets on his EBT card, which is his basically food stamps.
You gotta be in it to play it. Play it to be in it. Whatever.
We're in. Well, this wasn't Beverly Hills, but this was the on Santa Monica Boulevard, very close to Beverly Hills. And this is the atmosphere. I mean, I can't even go to a gas station without concerns for my fucking safety. I'm a grown man, not a relatively small person either.
That's one of the first places to go, man, the gas stations.
For what?
That's where they hang out. It's where
Who's
a lot
they?
of homeless people and they. You know who they is.
It is. We are. What a world we are living in, and this city is just a city in fucking decay. That's all I'm going to say. So just look outside your windows, yo. See what's happening in the world. Yeah.
Of Vancouver, and like you see stories about Vancouver from years ago. It's like, oh, it's beautiful. I mean, it's still beautiful, but oh, it's beautiful. It's a great city and all this. The homeless epidemic here is an actual epidemic, and
you have Chinese homeless in Vancouver.
Not a lot.
But I was shocked when I saw my first Asian homeless person here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
Come on, yeah. The math didn't help him.
What was interesting was I live
that was that went right over your head. It was a math joke.
I didn't even hear it. Well, I live in a primarily Chinese area, and I was actually driving to this shop where I know this guy is going to. We were talking about some car parts and stuff, and I looked over off the side of the street, and there's this couple, a young white couple, and I mean like early 20s, and they're both pulling really like nice looking suitcases, but you knew they weren't theirs originally, or there's some cheap knockoffs or something, and the guy was wearing these this sweatpants, like Adidas or something like that. Like his whole outfit was like a Adidas sweat outfit, sweat jacket and sweatpants. But the pants were down below his ass, and then the shirt was still long enough to go down into him. I still don't understand how these people get their pants to not fall all the way down when there's no ass holding them up. How does it work?
You need a good belt, and you need strong legs, strong quads.
I don't get it. Like, how does a lot of skinny people do this? I don't understand how it holds up, even with a belt.
All I can tell you is that no matter, this may seem politically incorrect, and certainly is here in Los Angeles, but, when we talk about the unhoused, all I can say is whoever is not taking care of business, they're really doing these poor people a tremendous disservice. Forget about the homeowners. Forget about just, our, safety in our streets and having some sense of community and safety for our children. Just the sadness and the despair that I see on the streets of Los Angeles. It's fucking criminal that this is allowed to go on.
Yeah.
In a first world country. The United States of America. Anyway.
It seems like the more money that's being thrown at it, it doesn't make a difference.
Well,
but
it's just like the ISHRS. Oh, listen,
just
888
like the ISHRS. Oh.
888-659-3727. I just tell that story because I was just at the gas station, and I'm just like, it used to be such a beautiful place to live. When I moved to California, man, and I saw these mountains and just the sunshine and the people, it was a different vibe in the palm trees. And I'm driving down, Sunset Boulevard or Santa Monica Boulevard, and I'm just in a different space. I'm like, holy shit, I fucking made it, man. I got out of fucking New York City. This is what life is supposed to be. And now it's like, I got to escape. I got to get the fuck out of here. But where do you go?
New York with you.
What? Yeah. But where do you go?
New York followed you. They found out where you are.
Geographically, this is the most beautiful climate in the United States. It's a beautiful part of the country. And it's fucking destroyed.
HLC 2020 says, nothing can beat Vancouver downtown east side if you want a shock. That's right, brother. Vancouver's downtown east side is a war zone. Like, Spencer, I swear to God, you've never seen anything like it. It's not one block. It's like a whole region, a whole area of the city.
I've seen it. I've seen something like it.
10 cities and...
Go to San Francisco or come here to Los Angeles.
Probably there's probably San Francisco areas they're like Vancouver. I don't know about.
I was just in West Hollywood yesterday. West Hollywood, where a lot of hair transplant doctors claim they're Beverly Hills hair transplant surgeons. But whatever, West Hollywood. I have to basically do Frogger to get to my fucking car. No exaggeration.
That is a reference. Yeah.
All right, guys. Phone number is 888-659-3727. This is the Hair Loss Show. Sorry, I sound a little frustrated. I am.
Frustrating.
I don't know where to go, really. Where do I move? What can I do? I mean, I can move anywhere, I guess. But if you move somewhere, if shit changes there, then you're right back here.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's take a phone call. This is the Hair Loss Show, guys. You have any questions, concerns about your hair loss? This is the place to get completely objective information about this fucked up industry. If you're considering hair transplant surgery and you've just found your perfect clinic on your Instagram feed, take a breath, pause, call us. I want to let you know whether or not you may be entering into a very dangerous situation. 7 out of 10 hair transplant patients that contact us either through the American Hair Loss Association, the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, and yes, through the Bald Truth website, which still exists, 7 out of 10 range from being dissatisfied to completely disfigured in today's market. That is not an exaggeration. That is not hyperbole. It may be worse than that. These are just the people that have contacted us. A lot of people haven't found us still. It's the way it is. We're not huge, in quotes, influencers on social media. So what happens to these poor people? They get fucking raked over the coals. They go, they see this shit in their feed. You talk about medical misinformation online. Holy shit. There is absolutely no regard for the users of these platforms when it comes to anything hair loss, anything weight loss, anything that pertains to everyday life, medicine and cosmetic surgery and aesthetics. 99% of everything in hair loss is bullshit. And I would say the same holds true for weight loss and general aesthetic medicine as well. The level of harm that is being caused every day by people somehow thinking that this is just a simple commodity that they can scroll to and say, hey, looks like a good price. Even something that seems as innocuous as tattooing your fucking head. People's lives are being really fucked up.
It's all over my feed. I'm seeing the S&P shops. I'm seeing the FDA-approved hair loss products that aren't FDA-approved hair loss products that are simply using minoxidil. I'm seeing the irradiation caps is what I'm calling them now. It's all over the place.
My feed are just LPs and women with big asses for some reason. I don't know how that happened. Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. Give us a call. Questions, concerns about your hair loss. Again, it's a call-in show, so we don't receive a full board of calls. As soon as all the lights are gone and no one calls in, I leave. Let's take a call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
It's Morty from Brooklyn.
Morty, how are you, man? You fooled me. Is that your number? Let me see. Oh, yeah, that is your number.
Indeed. How are you guys
it's a
doing
burner.
this lovely evening?
Not terrible, man. Listen, I complain about the reality of what's happening to our country and to, at least to my city, the city that I love.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fucking insane. But I have to say I'm pretty lucky in general. I've been able to develop a life and build a life that kind of insulates me from a lot of this bullshit. But you know what? Most people can't. So to answer your question, I'm just fine, Morty.
That's fantastic, Spencer. Yeah, I was listening to your spiel coming in, and it's funny because I think Joe hit the nail on the head. You left New York to get away from the homeless people on the street and the various odors that we find when walking the city streets, and here you are getting out of your car and once again greeted by those same odors and those same sights.
It's not even getting out of my car. I walk out of my place in Beverly Hills, California, and I turn to the left, and I got to put my hand in my pocket to grab my fucking knife just in case. I'm not exaggerating. And like I told you, I'm not like a little person. I'm a grown man. I'm medium, athletically built and all that stuff. I never in my life, I lived in New York in the 70s. I grew up at one of the most dangerous times to grow up in New York. I never felt the way that I feel today in Los Angeles.
I hear you. Yeah, it's funny how things have changed. I mean, I remember not too long ago during the Bloomberg administration where, they were touting New York as the safest big city in the country. And I just saw an interview with the mayor of Miami, and he is now touting the safest city in America, safest big city in America.
Yeah, sure.
It's
dude, you guys are fucked for now. That's all I'm saying.
Well, look, just like you, I mean, I'm a little bit younger than you, but I remember the 70s, you know, and I remember the 80s, you know. I remember, I mean, I'm not old enough to remember pre-Ed Koch, but I do remember Ed Koch, and I remember, David Dinkins and all of that stuff. So, you know, it is what it is. You know, I know how to survive. I'm just biding my time. We'll see what happens. You know, I mean, these things they come in cycles. You know?
They certainly do. But we've never had, and again, let's get into hair, but we've never been in a position where the entire world has the opportunity to provide, you know, to opine publicly and pressure people publicly about, you know, whatever side or whatever situation that they are passionate about. Let's put it that way. Trying to be politically correct.
And social media has definitely changed the world. You know, we were just talking about it as it relates to hair. I mean, I saw some things recently where, you know, doctors are complaining that some of their best work is being snatched off their website and is being passed along other websites, work that, you know, wasn't clearly done by that other clinic. Social media has been
going on as long as there's been an internet.
The beginning of time in the internet, dude. Yeah. Specs' image was circulated. I mean, I think I saw Specs' image on a Turkish website once.
Yeah, I believe it.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, Rolanus was talking about his image being used.
I'm sure.
You know, it's just that's how it is, and a lot of this is related. I mean, I just saw a video about what happened in a Ferrari dealership where, you know, these people glued themselves to these Ferraris and ruined their paint jobs, and, you know, we could talk about the Van Gogh that happened there. And
yeah, I'm just saying that's it's only a fucking car. Think about these works of art. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, interestingly enough, that particular thing didn't get damaged because, you know, they got lucky. Let's put it that way. The stuff had a specific cap on it, so it wasn't able to get as damaged. But yeah, people. I don't know. I honestly don't know what the right answer is to any of this stuff, and I don't want to delve too political here with respect to that. But it is an unusual time that we're living in right now.
Well, it is unusual. I will say that, you know, and I don't want to get political either. It shouldn't be political. It should be commonsensical. Like, you know, listen, this is a fucking society, yo. There has to be some sort of rules for everybody to survive.
Yeah, no question.
You know, is it going to be the greatest hunter gatherers that, you know, are we going to go back into, you know, the 200 years where people like me, for instance, or whoever, we're going to be the sole fucking survivors because we're able to fucking, you know, kill the most bison or whatever?
Oh, goodness. Not that there's any bison roaming the earth at this point. But, yeah. Yeah, let's get back to hair.
I was trying to use a metaphor, Morty. You fucked it up. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for the hair,
Spencer, there's no bison in L.A.
Yeah.
What's that?
Did Morty contacted me? I'm not going to say exactly what about, but he contacted me through one of these chats, these communicators, whatever they are. Jesus Christ, I can't think. And he asked me a question about a particular doctor, and I said, "Yeah, this guy, he was at the first Global Hair Loss Summit." He's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "No, Morty, I'm not fucking sure."
He didn't fucking remember. Either that, or he was being. You know what? I'm going to say something, which, God forgive me, I'm going to say this because I've talked to enough of these people to kind of get a feel for how they behave.
Yeah.
And this is a big general statement I'm going to make. Is that there is this belief, I suspect, in the minds of a lot of people who've been to school for a lot of years, and this isn't just doctors, and, you know, it's just generally people who, you know, who have doctorates or who have, you know, high degrees. There's this belief that these people somehow are better than people like myself or you, Spencer, or Joe. And you know, they feel like they can lord this over us. And we had a whole bunch of that with respect to the, you know, to the pandemic recently. All of us have experienced it.
Yeah.
And it just freaking pisses me off sometimes when, you know, these people who at the end of the day, they're no different than you and me. They basically make this assumption because of, you know, where they went to school or what they learned, that they're somehow better than us. And it's bullshit. You know,
well, that's you sound. All right, calm down. You sound, a little bitter there. I understand it. I get it.
You know,
I get it.
Know, I mean, that was the whole thing. You know, he goes ahead and like I said, I'm trying in good faith to help somebody who, because I'm the type of person where if I meet somebody for the first time, I give them the benefit of the doubt that they're good people.
Right.
You know, until they demonstrate something differently to me. You know, and I try my best to tell the truth to whomever comes before me, and of course.
All right, dude, spill the beans. So, what are you talking about? People want to know what the fuck's going on.
Well, no, I mean, you and I talked, and you know, he basically said that he didn't know who you were, or that he knew of you, and he didn't mention this particular, this particular involvement. And if he had, then I wouldn't be bringing it up. You know, it put me off, and I'm just like, well, And,
well, here, in all fairness, he could have just provided a presentation to Global Hair Loss Summit without knowing what the fuck it is, based on John. Mm-hmm. John was the scientific director at the time, and him saying, "Hey, listen, we're doing this conference. Can you participate?" And he's like, "Okay." But what was interesting about this dude, he participated, puts the fucking light behind him in the camera. It looks like he was like, in the shadows.
Undercover Doc.
Like he was undercover Doc.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
And we almost didn't use it, but out of respect for John Cole, we're like, you're right, this guy put some effort into it. We'll use it. But I will say it was really
I didn't
one
want
of the,
to. I wanted to cut it. For the record, I wanted to cut it.
It was...
I didn't think it was
without
usable.
sounding like a dick, it was one of the worst presentations we had for the year, and we fucking crushed it that year. But out of respect for John, we're like, okay, let's leave this in, and let's put him into the main room. So I could see why he wouldn't know. I mean, the guy, first of all, he's not involved in hair. And all these motherfuckers are oblivious to most anything that's outside of their immediate purview.
Yeah, that's true.
So I wouldn't. To me, that
from having opinions about it. That's the thing. I mean,
that's true.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I took this guy to this live karaoke show, in New York City, and he had a freaking great time. I come off the stage and we're walking, and he's like, dude, I got to tell you, you have to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this when you're on stage. And I'm just like, did you get up there and sing?
Wait a second, this guy,
yeah.
this old dude.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. That is fucking awesome.
He's like, you need to memorize the lyrics and look at the audience while you're singing. And I'm like,
hey Doc, it's fucking karaoke.
Yeah,
wake up, dude.
It's universal. It's like everyone knows what karaoke is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the only one to have fun, was he, Morty?
Well, we all had fun. We definitely did. Well,
yeah.
I showed him New York. He loved it. I took him. He'd never been to an Army Navy store, and he was like, I can't believe this is so cool. I mean, whatever. But again, this goes back to what I was saying is that there is this concept of generalizing from the particular. It's the error that all human beings make, that we know something in particular, and that suddenly means that we're expert in generalities. And that's what I see. So many cases like this.
Well, here's the thing. I've dealt with a lot of physicians over the years, and there are those who look at me as, this layman or a marketer or however they pigeonhole me with other people in the industry. And then there are those who understand what my role has been in the industry and really, find that I've kind of built a unique niche for myself, and that somehow this layman who didn't go to Harvard and doesn't have this education and doesn't have a medical degree is in the position that he's in our field. Now, there's some jealousy behind that. There's some respect, depending on the person. And then there's kind of a mixed bag. Some guys who respect us, what we do, and really they're part of what we do, they're still kind of embittered. They're embittered because they feel like, wait a second, why am I writing checks to this guy's organization? He's not even a doctor. Or why am I doing this? And why is he running that? I get it all. The way that I look at it is this. This is what we do. This is what I chose to do. If you want to be involved, you can be. And if you don't, you don't have to be. There's no skin off my back.
I'll go so far as to say even more so, because there are tons of times where people have called into the show asking about a doctor who isn't part of the IAHRS, and you personally know who they are, and you've said nice things about them, even though they aren't part of your organization.
Sure.
That just shows what a class act you are.
Well, look, I appreciate that, Morty, but to me, it's like I don't even think about this stuff, man. There are a lot of physicians who do have this holier than thou, these God complexes, and then there were some really down to earth guys who realized, hey, look, when I was a kid, I decided to study science and then go into medicine. You decided to do what you do, and then now we're both here. We have our own places in this world. And we respect each other. That's it. And then there are those who their entire, self-worth is tied into the fact that they were somehow able to get into medical school and they became a doctor and they're called doctor at restaurants and it is what it is. To me, call me Spence. I'm fine with that. And, as long as the check clears, I'm good. Anyway, someone's going to take that shit. Someone's going to take that shit out of context too.
Well, Spencer,
37 people already have.
Hold on, Morty's about to say something really nice about me. Hold on.
What I was going to say, Spencer, is you keep on doing what you're doing, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be where I am right now, which is very satisfied with the results that I've gotten. I made some good friends, and I've had some wonderful experiences, and it's because of you and because of Joe. So thank you guys.
Well, I appreciate, and we're going to go one further. If it wasn't for what we do, Joe and I do, all these years, if you decided to have a hair transplant, you would have had a strip taken out of the back of your head. That's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have had the option to have FUE. That's the bottom line. That's something that a lot of physicians, a couple in particular, cannot wrap their heads around. But that's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
If this was not introduced to them and they were not forced because there was economic pressure to do so, to move in this direction, FUE would not exist. With that said, I had no idea that there would be, I knew there was evil in this field, but I had no idea just how ruthless these motherfuckers would be with this technique and what would happen as things initially evolved and then devolved into what we're seeing today in the FUE market.
I could tell you, because the first time I'd seen somebody with a halfway decent FUT, this was like when I first started calling you guys. I saw it and I was very impressed with the work. Of course, I hadn't seen what could even be better than later on. But the truth is that I don't necessarily know that I would have gone for FUT to begin with. So,
and that's actually a very important point. And that's the first point that I tried to drive home to John Cole many years ago and some other guys. I said, I believed that FUE, which was not FUE at the time, it was the Woods technique, would make a tremendous a great ancillary procedure for those who might benefit from a hair transplant but would never have a strip taken out of the back of the head, and also for those who were stripped out. I never believed, and I still don't to this day, and I know a lot of people question this, that FUE should be the only tool in a hair transplant surgeon's toolbox. I think that it's doing a lot of patients a tremendous disservice to start with FUE, especially if they're going to progress to a high Norwood level. I know that there are doctors out there, including your friends, who would disagree with me, but it's illogical for them to even publicly state that.
Yeah, I for one think that just generally speaking, when we talk about early versus late, I think the later you can do this, the better off you're going to be, because you're going to have a better head on your shoulders, and you're not going to your expectations are going to be more realistic. Look, if I had gotten this done when I was like 20 or 21, when I was basically I was a Norwood 2 going to a Norwood 3 at that point.
You'd be bald again.
And I had done it. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As it is, I'm going to need the second procedure. I've got baldness behind in the rear part of the mid scalp and the top of the crown, because even though I had close to 4,000 grafts put in and they look fantastic, there is still baldness back there. So if I had gone full Turk and full turkey and done like a Norwood Zero, bringing them back to my 18-year-old hairline, that would have looked a fuck ton worse than what I've got.
Dude,
right now I've got.
I talk about this, and I've said this many times, but in the last maybe 7 or 8 years, I've noticed a diminishing of the donor area, hair all over, but it could be a combination of long-term androgenetic alopecia and also aged alopecia, as I am approaching a certain age. And if those hairs, and say I lost 30% in that area, any of those hairs that would have been moved when I was in my 30s or 40s would have been lost. And these kids have, even full-blown adults, 35, 36-year-old men, they don't know that this is the case. Even if you're on finasteride, you have to have a long-term plan. And any doctor is willing to put you in that chair without providing you with an honest assessment and all of the, the entire scope and possible pitfalls, including a long-term plan. Like, hey, you know what? If we move all these grafts via FUE now, there's a strong possibility you're going to lose a lot of these grafts in time. They may only last a decade or 5 years. Are you prepared for that? And if not, well, then maybe a strip will benefit you more, because at least we know that if we take 100% of that sweet spot, you have a greater chance of maintaining that hair that's being moved for several decades. No one talks about that. I don't even know why. It's nonsensical for any physician, any hair transplant surgeon, anyone who understands hair, not to tell their patients that.
It's a tricky one. The other side of it is because you could even go to a Norwood 7 or Totalis or something like that. That's the only fly in the ointment that I would see.
Well, that's a big fly in the ointment. But if you're giving consultations at any point, Morty, you got to let these people know. I mean, I want you to think about this, honestly.
No.
FUE is one, it's a great option, but it's only one option in this arsenal. And it really, each procedure is really patient dependent. Truly is. Anyone who's just doing FUE and who believes that this is the only route, I think there's something wrong there. Yeah. I really do. Joe, what do you think about that? Am I being too harsh about that statement?
No, I don't think so at all. But I was going to ask, Morty, are you doing consultations?
I have been asked to speak to patients, and I have spoken to patients. In
a unofficial capacity?
In an unofficial capacity, in the capacity of, because whenever I speak to people, I always tell them the following. I say, I am a patient of Dr. Cole's, and I am a friend of Dr. Cole's. I am not a consultant. I am not a doctor.
Okay, good.
And I talk about my personal experience.
Okay. So
that's all I can really. So all I can really talk about. I can't really talk about anything else. I can't really talk about anything else because I only know my own personal experience. I can't speak to I can't speak to what it's like to get it younger. I can't speak to strip. I can't speak to any of these things. Really.
Well, your personal experience is based on doing your due diligence, being old enough to be able to make logical assessments about what you were getting into.
Yeah.
Right.
And then pulling the trigger and having a relatively conservative FUE hair transplant performed.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I can speak to, and I think that's I guess you could talk about my sweet spot. I am very, very shy about talking about things that I only know of secondhand, either by speaking to you guys and hearing what you guys have to say, or speaking to people who've had the different procedures. And I always preface this. It's like when somebody asks me a question that, like if they'll ask me questions about strip, the first thing I'm going to say is I'm going to say, listen, I didn't have a strip, so I can't really give you any opinion on what it's like to have a strip, like, what the procedure is like, what the recovery is going to be like, what the dangers are going to be like. I can talk about what I've heard, but that's all it is. It's hearsay. It's not, it's like I can't be dragged into a witness box to talk about it.
Well, here's the thing. I can go even further than you. I've never had a fucking hair transplant. How's that, Morty?
Yeah.
What do you guys think about them apples? I've avoided having surgery for 30 years.
Yeah.
So, what do you think I have Joe hanging around?
Howdy.
Well, Joe, you're the expert witness, man. That's what you are.
Look, I did the show for
That's what I'm here for.
For 9 years on the radio. Never had a hair transplant. And I have to tell you, when I was on the radio, the show kicked fucking ass. We were like in 20-something markets. It was a lot of fun. Not saying it's not fun now. And I was able to do that just by providing people with a place to vent. That was really what my goal was. To talk about what I knew about the industry, and for people to talk about a subject that society never really allowed them to talk about. Once the camera was on me, I'm like, I better get a motherfucker who had a couple of hair transplants on board.
That's the way it worked.
Yeah.
It's so important.
He called me. He didn't even call me. He just sent me a text that said, "Hey, Tillman, you've had a couple hair transplants, right?
Yeah.
You want to do a show?
You did something online about your hair transplants once, right?
You've done the hair thing?
Because that's what you called it, right, Spencer? You called it the hair thing.
The hair thing, yeah. You've done that hair thing that when they put those plugs in your head, right, Joe?
When they pull it out the back and they put it on the top.
A couple times.
The stuff that you see on the Bosley commercials where the hair magically flies from the back to the front of the scalp.
And that's what it did. It actually flew. After they gave me some psilocybin, I saw it fly through the air and went to my head. It was amazing.
Some psilocybin.
Yeah, I'm just like, psilocybin. Jesus Christ, you're getting old. All right, Morty, listen. Listen, do me a favor. Anytime you do a consult, okay, I'm gonna get you an IHRS T-shirt, and I want you to wear the T-shirt, and I'm gonna get you a Bald Truth cap. Are you cool with that?
Okay, sure, man.
All right. Well, let's see how John feels about that. Listen, dude.
That works.
Love you, man. Always enjoy having you call in. And, do yourself a favor. Well, maybe it's good. The more you hang out with physicians who have and this isn't about John, this is about other guys. The more you hang out with physicians who think they've developed some sort of a reputation or who are highly admired by other physicians, you're going to learn a lot, man. You're going to learn a lot about ego and about weakness. True weakness, human weakness.
Yep.
And I think you already are. So we'll keep it at that.
Right, guys, listen, keep on keeping on.
We will. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
See you, Morty.
Guys, we just lost. I know Morty spends a lot of time on the phone with us. It's because we appreciate him calling, but don't hang up. Call back. The phone number is 888-659-3727. Go ahead, Joe. I got to answer his text.
I'd like to hear from Hair Boutique, who's making some comments in the chat section. She's been a big supporter of us for a while now, and I'd like to hear from her. She may or may not call in, but I would like to address a comment made by Jack H in the chat room. He says, "As long as you do both FUT and FUE, then you will have vacuumed up all of the good grafts. I don't see how it matters which order you do it." Well, here's why there is a need to do it one way versus the other. If you go for FUE first, then there's no strategy that you would normally need if you had FUT first. So if you go in and you scatter all the extractions as best you can throughout the entire donor zone, be it the bilateral donor area, the occipital donor area, and you're just going for good grafts, then you're taking more hair from the central area where a donor strip would wind up being. So it'll be more difficult to cover that or camouflage that in the future. But if you have a strip first, or 2 strips or whatever, then you have an area of virgin scalp above and below that incision line after it's healed that you can take from while still keeping that donor strip or the strip line, scar line in mind, so that you don't take so much to where you can't hide that if you want to with whatever type of hairstyle that you want. So that's why it does matter how you take it. You can still have a strip after FUE, but it's not a across the board statement like that, because it depends on how much FUE you've had taken. It depends on the donor density, depends on the hair shaft caliber, all these things. But if you have a strip first, then you can almost always do an FUE afterwards, depending on, again, your characteristics. But a lot higher potential for FUE after FUT than the other way around. So that's why.
And also, and that was well put and very accurate. But also, you are causing, every time you remove a graft via FUE, there is a chance of causing adjacent damage to hairs. There's a punctate wound, scarring that's happening. So, I mean, you can never get 100% of that sweet spot again. It's gone. Can't do it, Sally. You can take that strip out, but even if somehow you make that closure and it doesn't look weird like Swiss cheese after you made the closure, you're still losing potential grafts. That's just the way that it is. So it never made sense to me that people are like, I'll try some FUE and then, if I want more, then I'll get a strip. If you ever decide to get a strip, get the strip first. And I'm adamant about that, even though I'm not a physician and I've never had a hair transplant. Take a call. Hey, you're on the air. You're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Oh, yeah, it's John from the Bay Area. Thanks for taking my call. I've called before.
What's happening, John?
You guys are the best.
Hey, John.
Hey,
we really are the best.
Not only do you give a lot of great information, but you guys are good at what you do. You have a good show, a good entertaining show. It's one of my favorite shows just to listen to. You guys make it interesting. You throw in some other topics along the way, and it's a great show. You guys have a good 1-2 combination.
Well, I appreciate that. I know that you're an old-time radio guy, so coming from you, that's a great compliment.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, it's true, because a lot of people are not good, and you guys, but Spencer, you're an old pro, too, doing this, so it's pretty apparent listening to you that you're good on the air. You have a lot of experience on the air.
I appreciate that.
But so check this out. I took your suggestion about Dr. Rose here in the Bay Area, having an upcoming appointment with him. And so I'm going to meet with him in a couple of weeks. I'll let you guys know how it goes. I appreciate it. But one point I want to share with you guys, share with the audience as well, is that, some of these other, particularly the ones in the Bay Area and elsewhere, they charge a fee for a consultation fee to see the doctor. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, it takes months and months to actually see the doctor for the initial consultation fee, or they line you up with one of their, like the Morty types. They have like a former patient, or they have, these, people who are these sales guys, and they charge you for that sometimes too. Dr. Rose, the reason why I'm bringing this point up, Dr. Rose himself will meet with you. He's meeting with me free of charge. I'm charging for that consultation, and I get to meet with him directly. And I only had to wait 2 weeks.
And he's not just a real doctor. He's actually been around for a very long time and probably one of the best in the field. So I think that says a lot. I'm really glad that you took that suggestion.
I just like to point out that it took exactly 3.7 seconds for Morty to be lumped in with greedy consultants.
I mean,
and just like that, he's a greedy consultant.
Well, because you talk to these people, you're not talking to the doctor direct. I just want to make that point about Dr. Rose. And one thing also, I was kind of a little bit hung up on this no-shave FUE, but Dr. Rose seems like what his steak and potatoes is the FUT, a conservative FUT. He has a lot of photos up there, 15, 17, 1,800 grafts of FUT with good results. So I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe that is a better way. Do the FUT, but do a conservative one. If I, in my case, fortunately, knock on wood, I can get away with a conservative FUT, under 2,000 grafts. I mean, it just looks to me like that's kind of what he showcases. His photos on the website there are under 2,000, all FUT. And that might be, Joe, I think if you, and Spencer also, but Joe, I know you've had 10 hair transplants or however many. If they do a FUT, a smaller FUT, does that mean a smaller scar as well? So you're not having an ear-to-ear?
Well, yeah, by definition, it means a smaller scar simply because it won't be as long. So if you're going for a really big mega session of, say, 5,000 grafts in one session, again, assuming that you have all the characteristics to support that, then the donor strip will be quite long. It'll be, past the ears on either side, all the way around the back. But Dr. Rose, he was never a big believer in that. Like he appreciated what some other clinics were doing, but he kept it on the smaller end of things, where he wasn't going so far forward on the sides of the donor scalp for these big strips. He was keeping it smaller, which means a shorter strip, and he wasn't going really wide with the width of that strip either. And it's all it's all. The wider you go, the longer you go, and the wider you go, the more hair you get. So he's going shorter and more narrow in that strip. And so, yeah, it does make sense that you'll have a smaller scar, but there is no guarantee that you will. I've seen from a variety of doctors, well-known doctors, that have taken a supposedly smaller strip for a smaller surgery, and still a wide donor scar resulted. Was it because of technique? Was it because of physiology? Probably a little bit of both on that given day for whatever patient that was, because that's the only problem with FUT that was big enough that would that influence the development of FUE. That's the only reason why FUE even exists, is because of the strip scar. Full stop. There's no other reason why it exists. There are benefits that have been discovered because of it since then, but that's the only question mark with FUT that no one can answer. Will I be able to have the proverbial pencil-thin donor scar? Odds are the answer is no. Odds are you'll have a pretty good outcome with a consistently good doctor. But even then, there's no guarantee. It can still be a wide donor scar.
So when they talk about scalp elasticity and these other factors, you're saying even if you fit the criteria, they can't say for sure. Nobody knows for sure, even if you have the elasticity. And
you may have some sort of like unusual physiology where, forget about stretch back, but you may have some sort of, unusual keloiding, or it's probably not going to be the case. You probably know how you scar, but there's always a possibility. Anytime you get cut, once you're cut, you are cut. Now I will say, at least in Dr. Rose's case, he did develop something along the lines of the trachyphytic closure. He calls it the ledge technique, which he's had a lot of success with. He has been doing really good closures for a very, very long time. So if you're looking at time on tissue and consistency, and you're considering a strip, he's definitely, one of the key players in this game. So at least you're going to someone with tremendous experience who's cut out a lot of tissue and has sutured a lot of wounds successfly.
And I'll give you an example of how it can be the physiology that's at play instead of the technique. Many years ago, there were two cases that I know of personally, from personal interaction with knowing the doctor personally and having many conversations with them about this issue. Two different doctors, two different cases, where the patient had, this is when FE2 is more prevalent, patient had a wide donor scar and wanted to go in for a revision to have the highest possible chance of a much better outcome, to have that proverbial pencil-thin scar. And it was suggested by one doctor to the other. And then eventually that first doctor that suggested it, he tried it himself, where you would take, instead of removing the staples or sutures after 10 to 14 days, which is roughly the standard in the industry at the time, try 3 months or 6 months. And with staples, you remove every other staple once a month. And then when they come back for that next pass, then those previous staples are taken out and the new staples are put in again, every other, like a spacing, right? Just to keep things not quite so tight. And a 1-inch donor scar was improved, but it was still half an inch. After everything was all said and done, 6 months later, the last staple came out, and it still eventually stretched to half an inch, roughly a centimeter and a half, or about a centimeter and a half. And he had no known, keloidal issues or anything like that. It was just the way that his body responded. And this isn't, I'm not telling you this to scare you off or anything, but just to pinpoint the fact that it is unpredictable. And I have to say there's only 2 cases like that I've seen where such an extreme outcome was treated with such an extreme treatment and still had a less than desirable outcome, but was still twice as good as it was before.
Would you think age has anything to do with that? The younger you are, maybe you have a better chance of not having. Yeah, absolutely,
100%. Dr. Wong used to talk to me about, like he would tell me, he'd say, you know what, if you want to improve that, let's look at it after you're 40, because the activity of skin formation and skin repair, it slows down to where there's not so much of an overproduction of collagen, which creates a scar formation.
It's like sperm, man. You have aging fibroblasts.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know.
Exactly.
That's one thing.
But yeah, the older you get, the better the scar will be.
Yeah.
Big believer in that.
Don't say the older you get, what? The bigger the scar will
be?
The
better.
No, the better the scar.
Yeah, I see. Another thing I know, and conversely with that, Dr. Rose also, in his video, he says he has some special tools so the post-surgical swelling isn't as bad. Have you heard anything like that? He claims that, unlike other doctors, that there's not much swelling because of the tools he uses. He says that in the video.
I can tell you that it's probably based more on his experience with those tools or whatever else he's using during the procedure than the tools themselves. So, based in his hands and against the practice of medicine, he's been able to, and this is what he states, to mitigate or to lessen the level of swelling in many of his patients compared to perhaps someone else who's doing the same type of strip procedure. Now that's just experience, and there's a lot to do with it. It could be the way he's using tumescence or whatever, when he's injecting anesthetic. There's a lot of variables when it comes to swelling, right, Joe? That's right, Spencer.
But I have to say that to use a lack of swelling or a reduced level of swelling as some sort of reason to go to a doctor versus a different doctor, I don't think that's justified, because there's nothing wrong with swelling. It's a natural reaction of the body to wounding, and
if I have one heavy night out, I'm all swollen anyway.
Yeah, well, not like this, but
yeah.
I'm just saying that he says that in his video. He says that in his video, though, Joe. He says that, he talks about that. He makes a point of discussing that. Now, I hear what you're saying, that swelling is swelling, and that's a natural thing, and you shouldn't run away from that. That's just the reality of it.
Well, I'm not saying you shouldn't run away from it. I'm just saying it doesn't impact the final outcome one way or the other. It's just inconvenient for a couple of days because you look like a Klingon. But it goes away. Like, I used to tell patients that if you're going to have swelling, which is not guaranteed, a lot of patients didn't have swelling, and when we're talking about swelling, we're talking about swelling of the face. It almost like clockwork would peak on day 3 and then be gone by day 6, sometimes day 7. But those last couple of days, it's not even really something that most people would notice unless they know you. But you're in hiding anyway for roughly the first week after any hair transplant, so it doesn't really make a difference. And it certainly doesn't affect the outcome.
I understand. And so, I guess the scar is the reality, and that's what I've been going back and forth, that no shave FU, stuff, but
Look, here's the reality. You're going to be scarred no matter what. Now, the thing is, but the thing is, you want to try to avoid the emotional scars. That's the thing. You're going to be physically scarred no matter what you decide to do. So, can you deal with a moderate strip scar? And in most cases, again, this is a guy with really good hands. He has a long track record of creating really good scars for his patients. And you're in good hands if you decide to have strip with him. But either way, no matter who you go to, you're going to be scarred. That's it. You're either going to have a couple of thousand of punctate wounds on the back of your head, or you're going to have a single linear strip across the back of your head. That's your choice.
I'll tell you this, John. In all of California, Dr. Paul Rose is one of the few doctors I'd actually consider for myself. That's how good he is, in my book. I've known the man, I first met him in 2004, so 18 years.
Let's put it this way. He's one of the first doctors I put in the original The Bald Truth out of 11 doctors.
Yeah.
Worldwide.
Yeah.
So this is not trying to sell Dr. Rose, but, you've made a good choice as far as at least having a consultation with one of the best, not only of his era, but of, he's still practicing. And he's in great shape, especially for his age. He's in really good shape. He has steady hands, and he has a tremendous amount of experience. It's hard to find in this industry today.
No, and I appreciate that referral. I really do. And he's meeting with me, and he's not even charging for that. And it goes to show that he's not trying to rip you off. Some of these doctors are charging up to $500. I'm not going to name names. $500 for a consultation. $500 for a 30-minute, 20-minute consultation.
Well, to me, it's whatever the market will bear, and it's worth it if you're going to a good guy and you decide to have surgery with them. But even, I always tell people to put into their equation, to put into their, the amount they're willing to spend for a hair transplant, put at least $2,000 in that equation for consultations.
Interesting. Okay. I hadn't heard that before.
I think it's invaluable. And honestly, if I were a doctor, I would charge you for a consultation. If I'm giving you a medical assessment, I would charge you. Now, it's possible that Paul's not charging because, this is a relatively new practice, or he's working he's working within an older dermatology practice, but, the hair aspect of things is relatively new, and the practice decided that, they don't see why they need to charge for a consultation, whatever it is. It's great that it's free, but I don't think that should have any bearing on whether or not you decide to have a consultation with somebody.
Okay.
And the reason why I like paid consultations is because it always makes sure that the patient is going to be paying more attention than a standard run-of-the-mill free consultation. Not to mention it filters out tire kickers.
Yeah.
I actually recommend all the doctors I work with to charge for the consultations because, and a lot of people don't like that and they don't like hearing that. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of clinics are being used by patients to simply get a finasteride prescription when their family doctor can write it just as easily. And I think it's a great opportunity for people to actually speak to a real qualified professional. But there are too many situations where they're not. And because it's free, they're getting their script, and anything and everything else is being told to them is in one ear and out the other.
But the thing is,
then they fly to Turkey.
And if you think about it that way, if you go to your family practitioner, you go to your internal medicine specialist or your internist, your insurance is going to charge them. They're going to charge $150 for the consultation and the script anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I definitely think there's tremendous value, and you want these physicians to feel like, okay, their time is valued by you, and they're going to give you more time as well. So, but anyway, I'm glad you decided to see Dr. Rose. You're going to have I hope you have a good consultation. Let us know how it goes. Make sure you let him know that you're going to be, explaining everything on The Bald Truth.
Oh, no, I already dropped your name. I dropped your name in there already. And I said you recommend it, which is true. You referred me there, And I didn't know you knew him for so long, and I didn't know he was in your book, your original book, and I didn't know that. I mean, now I'm a little bit intimidated now.
Actually, he may not even remember, for crying out loud. I'm just kidding. Look, don't be intimidated. He's a very, very nice guy. He's a really good doctor. And that's not to say there aren't other great doctors you can go to as well. He just happens to be close to you.
Yeah, well, there's one guy in Los Gatos. I know I've heard him on the program before. Somebody called Dr. Deep, D-I-E-P, and there's just, I don't know. I've heard some good and some bad, but that all that Yelp stuff, who knows?
Look, man, I this is the way that I feel. I believe that if someone spends a lot of time on social media, it doesn't always equate to the results that you
real life
that you want, that you're interested in. Nothing against Dr. Deep, but to me, I prefer old school. And also just, time on tissue, and I don't know, the more online hype, as I'm getting older and as I'm realizing, and I've been in this field for a long time, it seems that those who have hyped themselves the most online don't seem to be getting the best results. Now, this has nothing to do with this particular doctor. There's a doctor that I know in Texas, for instance, who was like one of the first online guys, like really heavy online. And he's very political. He's all over the place with, the different organizations, this and that, and writing papers. And, where's the beef? That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, where are the results? To me, there's more time being spent doing podcasts and videos and writing papers and this and that than actually creating, stellar results for patients.
Right. And it seems like Dr. Rose seems, they seem humble. They seem professional, not so much marketing. This is in your face. They seem professional. And with your recommendation, and a strong recommendation, so I guess and he's very close by. I mean, I guess that's the real deal.
Well, it is the real deal, but he could still fuck you up, man. That's cosmetic surgery.
Oh, thanks, Spencer. That's reassuring. Reassuring.
I think the odds are much, they're very much in your favor of having a good result. But it's so important. If someone hears you say this, who's listening, they need to know that it doesn't matter what type of recommendations we give. This is cosmetic surgery. Anything could happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the scary part. I guess you just got at some point, you have to weigh it. I mean, you have to weigh the anxiety or the fear or your insecurity versus the improvement and the risk. I mean, so it's a double-edged sword. It's just at some point, what is more...
Right, but you took most of the guesswork out of the equation as far as the potential of a real downside by doing your due diligence, by finding the program, by having a consult or about to have a consult with someone who's very highly regarded in the field. So you are mitigating the possibility of being fucked up. Most people don't even do that.
Yeah. Well, that's good, man. And God forbid, maybe it'll be a good result. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it'll actually help me. Maybe it'll be a miracle. I can come on your show and tell you, God has pointed his hand on my side of the field. I've been saying.
Well,
I mean, it's possible.
I would say that it's very possible. We're not looking for miracles, but I think that, given what you've spoken about as far as the progression of your hair loss, your age, and the physicians that you're looking at, you're most likely going to be happy. You have all the characteristics to make a satisfied patient.
Well, I hope so, Spencer. All right,
all right, brother.
Let you guys go. I appreciate it.
All right, good luck.
I'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Bye-bye.
888-659-3727. As soon as I hung up, the lights just went dark. Oh, okay.
Hair Boutique, you can call in now.
They just lit again.
It might be her.
I don't know who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, it's Jack from London.
Hey, man. How are you?
Yeah,
hey, Jack.
I'm good. I'm very good, thank you. Good to speak to you guys again.
Absolutely. Great to hear from you. What's going on?
Not too much. I just thought I would share my kind of story so far. I think I called in about a year ago or so when I was going through like a big shed.
I remember your call, Jack.
Yeah, it was just before the the Ukraine-Russia war situation.
Jesus.
And I even remember my friend who was saying, oh God, Jesus, we might have some kind of World War III nuclear situation. And I remember saying to him, well, if it does happen, at least I will die with hair. It's kind of funny now. But since then, I went through like a really bad shed, and I just decided to shave my head.
Really?
And I did shave my head. Yeah, so I thought I'd call in. Yeah, I thought I'd call in, and I'm really glad I did it. Like, really glad.
All right, so let's talk about it.
Did you do this on Harry's channel?
No, I didn't, but I'm aware of the channel, and I watched like a few of the videos, and I was thinking about it for a long time. There's like a lot of anxiety that comes with.
That's the place to go.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what the funny thing is? When you shave your head, literally nobody cares. Like, you think it's like this big deal, like, oh my God, I'm gonna become this different person or whatever, and people are just like, oh, you shaved your head. Like, it's really
you know what's interesting about that is nobody gives a shit about anything except they're willing to point out you're losing your hair.
Yeah, that's true. I think I remember seeing I saw, I don't know, some clip of some guy, and he was saying, going bald, like being bald is fine. Having hair is fine, but going bald is horrible. And that actually really resonates with me a lot now, because I kind of realized, actually, I was kind of in this perpetual state of going bald, and that was painful. But when you shave your head and you really just accept, okay, there's nothing I can really do about this, I'm just going to embrace it, the weight off your shoulders is huge. And I was surprised about how happy I was by doing that.
Well, I can't even imagine it. I think about it sometimes, as I'm continuing to have to paint more of my bald spot, and I'm seeing the changes as I'm getting older. I'm like, I don't get on TRT or human growth hormone or any of that shit because of my hair. And I think, wow, man, I can get fucking jacked. I can just take steroids for the next 20 years and shave my head, be a totally different person. But I still can't let go.
Sure.
Kane from Kung Fu, 2022.
Dude, if I get on that shit, I won't look like Kane. My neck would be it would just be ridiculous.
I remember, Spencer, like laughing. I remember you used to say, I look like a man from the future. I've actually stolen that line. I used to say when I had hair, I was like, no, I would look like I'm from the future.
That's great.
All right, so let's talk about this. This is very inspirational for a lot of guys. There's, I'm a guy who just wasn't equipped to deal with this hair loss, and I've maintained enough all these years to feel relatively comfortable in my own skin and talk about this situation with others like me. But our mantra since the first day I've did the show in 1998 is that surgery is a last resort, and if you could shave your head, do it.
You win.
No, absolutely, and that resonates with me. And I've told you, before when I've called in, I've been listening to the show since I was dealing with this when I was 19.
Wow.
I'm 31 now, so it's been a long time coming. And I definitely took on board the message that surgery is, can be life-changing, can be great, but actually you got to be the right candidate to do that. And it's important as well, if you do it, to do it with a great doctor. So I took on board that, but then I was really thinking about it, and I was like, I just don't see the kind of the maths of this adding up. I don't understand how this, I'm not the guy with hair, so I don't understand. I can see how it works for some guys, but I just couldn't see it really working for myself. And to be honest, I definitely thought, you know what, I'm not comfortable in my own skin to be a bald guy at all. I don't want to do that. So I tried to, fight it for, years on end. I did, Rogaine, finasteride, even dutasteride. I did the whole Top-Deck Cuvée thing. And actually, what I realized was it had taken such a big focus and energy of my life that I was just diverting so much attention towards such a I know it's an important thing, but it is a superficial thing. And it's very difficult.
You've just insulted my entire career and life.
Look, I'm coming from a place of I understand the experience. I know the anxiety, and I totally understand it. But if you really...
Your new attitude is the healthiest attitude to have. Let's put it that way. That's how I feel about it.
Well, it's such a wonderful turnaround, because when you can talk about how liberating it is, I got to tell you, like, every time I go in for a hair transplant, which is kind of weird to even say, but, and I shave my head, I actually stand in front of the mirror and I look at it and I'm like, fuck, why don't I just keep it like this? Just stop dealing with it. Because with all the work I've had done, like, there are weak spots in the back. It's like, God, I still got to comb it a certain way. And like, it's so liberating. It feels so awesome to have a shaved head. I love it. So I completely understand what you're saying. And I got to tell you, I'm very happy for you. It's such a liberating experience and feeling of freedom. Couldn't be happier for you. But continue.
Yeah, and there's something more than, it's more than the aesthetics. So, like, yes, absolutely. Most guys, I'll tell you this. I was one of those guys. I was like, I have a weird shaped head. It's not going to work for me. I'm going to look like a freak. And actually, I think everyone thinks they have a weird shaped head or they're going to look weird. And actually, when you do it, you are probably, you might not be, but you're probably more likely to be pleasantly surprised. Actually, it doesn't look so bad, but it's not really how it looks. Actually, the biggest takeaway for me was looking myself in the mirror as someone with a shaved head. I was thinking, you're looking back at a braver version of yourself. Like, it was something I didn't want to do, and I was very anxious about it, but I was quite proud. Like, I was like, you just dealt with something that really bothered you, and you did the best you could. And like,
listen, Jack, don't make me cry now, man. Yeah. That is beautiful. That really is, and that is a truer statement has never been said in a long time on this program. I am a fucking coward, man. I could not, and I'm not saying that I won't do it one day, but I'm telling you, if I see changes, I'm just like, fuck, now I got to deal with this, and I have some, I had some serious issues happen in my life over the years, and this is still, the longer you hold on to it, in some cases, the more difficult it might be to eventually let go. And
I totally agree. Yeah.
And I think that surgery complicates things for those people who might have been willing to let go earlier, but now they're stuck.
Oh, yeah. 100%. And actually, I think it kind of plays back to the initial point I made about going bald is such a painful experience, whereas being bald is fine, and and having hair is fine. But if you're in that period where you have a good, as you said, Spence, like a semblance of a head of hair, you're kind of caught in this situation where you're still trying to maintain it, but at some point you pass the threshold of, when I realized, I was like, I'm no longer the guy with hair trying to hide the bald spot. I'm the bald guy trying to pretend to have hair. And when I realized that, I was like, okay, like this is like, got to stop.
Are you a professional writer or anything?
No, I wish.
Because Jesus, that's great. I'm going to use that clip, man. That's true. I am still the guy who has enough hair to hide his baldness. So I'm in a position, it's kind of a weird position to be in, but there's a lack of freedom that I've dealt with for my entire adult life. And now that I'm, in my late 50s, it's not as bad, but it's a double-edged sword, because I would like to do things. Like, I'm not saying, I don't even know what my testosterone levels are at this point, but I know as I'm working out, I'm not quite as rock solid as I used to be. There are some changes that I'm seeing that I would like to mitigate if I can, or reverse, but I can't even get on the slightest bit of hormone replacement without the worry of it exacerbating or accelerating, my hair loss, and then having to make that decision. So there's limitations.
The other point I was going to make is that, look, I've been on finasteride for 14 odd years, and I was always of the mind of the anecdotal reports you read online tend to seem to be a bit of hyperbole. They're very dubious, and I honestly thought they were basically hyping up this idea that there was some serious side effects from finasteride, because I never really experienced it at all.
Right.
That being said, when I stopped, oh my God, like, I did notice a significant difference. And I think, Yes, finasteride, I think in the class of like, if we take like all of pharmaceutical drugs, there's probably terrible side effects from most of them.
Sure.
Finasteride as a profile of a drug is probably pretty safe for you. And I'm pretty sure when you stop, I personally believe that you're pretty much fine and you're going to revert back to what you were, whatever it was.
Well, you say you just said you stopped and you saw a difference. What's the difference? You're waking up with a silo now. What's happening?
Yeah. So all of a sudden, stop taking finasteride, not really thinking much of it, and noticed like a massive increase in like sex drive, libido, positivity, and I was shocked. I was honestly shocked because I never ever thought that. I honestly thought it was. Just kind of trolls online or ambulance chasing lawyer posts. But I do think...
Well, that does exist, but now I understand why Tillman is always so angry. Listen, I don't honestly, I don't know about myself. I do remember a slight change in I don't know if I became a little bit more tired at a younger age when I started to take the drug for a while, and then it seemed to like dissipate. And but who knows? I mean, I'm pretty energetic now, and without sounding obnoxious as far as like the drive and all that stuff, it seems relatively young. And I don't know if that has to do with potentially the way I take care of myself and genetics, whatever it is. But I wonder what it would be like if I wasn't taking finasteride. I wonder if I would be stronger. I wonder if things would be better in the gym. I wonder if I'd want to, instead of want to fuck twice a day, I want to fuck 4 times a day.
Well, look, I'm pretty pragmatic about it. You know what? When I was on finasteride, it wasn't a problem. As you said, I wasn't shooting ropes, but it wasn't like an issue.
Right.
It's the point where it compromised my quality of life. But I did notice, and it wasn't a night and day thing, but I did notice a difference. And I was surprised when I stopped that actually I was like, okay, so it has actually been suppressing some part of this. But it's just interesting because I was someone who was not at all bought into any of that stuff.
That interests me too. Now, and I have that in my back pocket now in case I need a little boost of energy at some point. Just get off that shit, shave my head. Boom. I get at least 10 years back. But listen, Jack, man, I'm really proud of you, and you must be thrilled. I mean, to have that type of freedom, it's like getting out of prison.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? The amount of times I'm not joking there. I would spend like an hour to 2 hours like trying to do my Shambui fake comb over with the whole couvre topic thing, stressing out, going on a date. I mean, I can't even believe that was I'm the same person. Like, it is insane to me.
How old are you now?
But I'm 31.
Oh my God, you're 31. Wow. You have your whole life ahead of you, and you're free.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's honestly, if anyone listening is debating getting a transplant, or even just fighting hairloss, I would say, if you're going to do any drastic step at all, just give it a try. Like for 1 year, I mean, what can go wrong? I mean, you shave your head. If you don't like it, go back to fighting hairloss. It's no big deal.
Sage advice.
Because I was surprised. I was honestly surprised.
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy for you, man. I mean, your whole life is going to change now. I mean, that's just one major issue off the table.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't totally say like obviously, I still love the show, and I still like obviously would in a perfect world have hair,
right?
But the difference between where I was previously living, trying to like hide and fight everything, versus now kind of embracing it, it's totally different. It is a lot of stress off my shoulders.
Oh,
another thing I was calling about because I was interested in it. Because personally, I don't think I would be
okay, now you're going too far.
No, I'm not interested in surgery myself. But I'm always interested. I love the whole hairloss spiel. I love the community, and I do find it interesting. But I do see people talking about Botox as a way to prevent hair loss, and I honestly wanted to dispel this online to some guy, but I was curious. Have you ever heard of people? Because I know there's a few doctors doing this. But maybe it would be for the benefit of your listeners.
Honestly, I have. And it is shocking to me that there are physicians out there that are performing this and that are making these claims. I think I read a paper, and it wasn't even in a legit journal. I'm trying to think back when I read this thing. But I have never seen any long-lasting or legitimate results. So if anyone is considering getting Botox injected into their scalps to maintain their hair, I think it's a bad idea for several reasons. One is it's not going to. I don't believe it works, and if it does work, it's probably some sort of a temporary action. And
what would the mechanism be?
The long-term mechanism of Botox, which is it's amazing to me that this is even being done on a regular basis to young people for their static lines and in their face. The long-term downside of Botox is that you're not moving the muscles. Now, you don't have to really worry about your scalp that much, but there could be scalp atrophy as well. But there's actual muscle atrophy in these women's faces that in time makes people look older, besides all the other possible downsides of being injected with a shit into your body. So where'd you read about this? You read about this on Reddit?
Yeah, probably. But I think actually it was Dr. Ball, actually. I might be wrong, so forgive me if you're listening to Dr. Ball. I might be wrong because I might have read it somewhere else. But I thought it was one of those guys or him doing it.
It's you know what?
But anyway,
it's possible.
I had a look.
It's possible. I've never heard him speak about it, but it's absolutely possible. Yeah. And I don't see why he would do that.
Yeah, it might not be. I feel bad actually bringing his name up. I think because I definitely read about him doing what is definitely he did was inject fat into people's scalps, and they did like a trial thing. And
there's a lot of physicians out there that are trying that. Essentially doing small liposuction sessions and then reutilizing that fat and injecting it into the scalp. And there seems to be some sort of, I use this in quotes, stem cell activity when it comes to these adipose fat injections. But I don't know. I'm just, at this point, I'm still very skeptical.
Sure.
Everyone's still a guinea pig.
Well, you know what? The most surprising thing is after shaving my head and actually being pretty happy with the result, I'm still absolutely the biggest fan of your show, and still love going on Reddit and love just lapping up all of the hair loss stuff.
Well,
can't get enough of it.
Well, listen.
Even though, it's funny.
Well, now you can enjoy the program and you can enjoy going online without being desperate. One of these desperate guys behind their keyboards, hoping against hope that they're going to save all their hair. Because
absolutely.
Listen, there's only. I basically liken it to maybe a 50-50 chance of maintaining and saving your hair once you start the process. That's just the way that it is. And not everybody is going to be able to benefit from anything that's out there.
Yeah. I mean, it never made sense to me that, Joe is like an anomaly in my opinion. Like most guys, from the looks of things, when they have a transplant, try and look up, transplant plus 10 years, 5 years, whatever. It doesn't seem to hold the test of time. So, for me,
a lot of times
I never really thought.
To me, it is not, and Morty said it well, and this is the way that I feel. The longer you could wait, the older you are when you have a transplant, the more likely you are to be happy for the long term. So, if I decide to have a transplant when I'm 60, I could be dead at 70. I'm probably going to maintain that transplant.
No, it's probably the funniest thing that you're
looking good in the casket.
You're the most equipped person in the world to have the most amazing hair transplant, but you still don't do it, which I really respect. I think that's both funny, but also it's got a serious point. I respect that.
Well, I appreciate that. There's a level
it's
of
out of sheer fear.
Yeah, there's a level of neuroses, but there's also just I know where all the bodies are buried, and I know the reality of this surgery and what it takes to be a really good candidate. And I may be a good candidate in 5 years. I may be a good candidate right now, but I'm not in a position where I think I need to have one. Because I could live with the paint job and the hairspray. I've been living with it for so long, it would be weird for me not to at this point. You know, it wouldn't really make a difference. Kind of like Trump. I'm like Trump the early years. Yeah, everyone's made fun of his hair for years. He's finally grown into it. Now that he's 75 years old. All right, brother. Listen, Jack, congratulations. I'm really happy for you, and, call us, continue to call the show. Let us know how you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't have thought in a million years I'd be calling to say I've shaved my head, and I'm really, really happy about it. This time, even last year. So it's just, good to share that. And, I still love the show. I think what you guys are doing is great. So, keep it up, and I appreciate it.
All right, brother. Good luck and congratulations. Good talking to you.
Thanks, Jack.
All right,
good hearing from you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. My ear is killing me, Joe. I don't know if it's this thing or I have an ear infection or what, people. Let's take a call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Good evening, guys. This is John. I'm calling from Los Gatos, California.
John, what's happening, man?
Hello, John.
Good guy. I don't know if you guys remember my story. I called back.
Wait. John in Los Gatos. John in Los Gatos.
What? Well, like I'm visiting Los Gatos.
Is your last name Deep?
I'm from Miami. No. No.
But isn't him?
I was the guy.
Okay. Never mind. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, like I'm visiting the area. I'm from Miami, Florida.
So what's up?
Okay. All right.
Dude, you're breaking up, man. Can't hear a word you're saying. We're going to have to hang up in a second.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, sorry. So I called in years ago. I don't know if you guys remember my story. I was the guy that went to a local Fort Lauderdale doctor in the Miami area, and I didn't have the greatest of results.
Oh, was that the guy? Was that the guy that thought he was Jesus?
No. Well, he trained with him. So.
Oh, the other guy, the guy that trained with Jesus.
Yeah, the other guy.
Yes.
His disciple.
Yes.
Get it?
Yeah, exactly. So I went there. Had a transplant at a very young age. And I'm calling you guys because I wanted to thank you guys. But I also have a question. But I want to thank you guys for really, just saving me from really, going down like another bad path.
Well, you're welcome, but you're on the bad connection path right now. So is there a way that you can maybe, you're on speakerphone or are you speaking on an internet line? What's going on?
Sorry, can you guys hear me now?
Better, yes.
Much better.
Okay, sorry about that. Basically.
So you're saying how great we are.
Yes.
and you're 22.
It didn't go well.
Yeah.
Well, at the time I was 22. Basically the hairline was placed, pretty low. So I was in a bad position because, I had good density behind the hairline, but the hairline itself was just very low density, just very unnatural looking. So after that, I called you guys and, got in touch with Spencer's website and Joe, you too. And basically, I had a repair procedure with Dr. Charles in Boca Raton.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
And, so it went well. I think one thing I would highlight is that a lot of, young guys, I feel like, they think they're going to get, a transplant, and they're going to get this great density, and, they're going to be one and go, and that's it. And the reality is, even when you have a botched procedure like I did, and I was kind of lucky because I had curly hair, so it wasn't so noticeable. But, given the fact that there was a lot of work that needed to be done, even the procedure that Dr. Charles did, he was able to, bring me back to a state of now I look normal, but still where, there's added work to be done. So that's why I was telling you guys.
Well, that's the first step. The fact that you were able to get back to a point, which sucks that you had to go through that, but back to the point where at least you're able to look like you don't have a bad transplant. That's huge. There are people out there who can never get back to that point, that no matter, depending on how many grafts removed, how low the hairline was, whether or not there was cobblestoning, some people are just, after one bad procedure, they're fucked. So congratulations. I'm happy for you.
Yeah. And I was in a situation where I went to the original clinic that I had the transplant at, and, they were offering me a free surgery, to repair it. And, at the time that sounds great. Like, oh yeah, a free procedure. Like, but, I was able to step back and, listen to you guys and kind of like, make a wiser decision. Because at the end of the day, like if I would have gone back and they would have doubled that area down, and it still looks unnatural, then I'm really screwed.
100%. And what do you think is going to happen? It's like anything else. It reminds me of politics. It's like, if someone fucks you up, man, if something fucks a situation up, you don't go back to that person. You don't go in that same direction. You switch teams. That's it. You have to make, and it's very difficult because people are like, I spent all this money, and I guess this could happen, and they say they could fix me, and they're going to do it for free. It's a bad move in most cases, in my view. Some instances it could be okay if there were if it was a reasonable hair transplant, but there were some variables that may have caused you to have poor growth or whatever. But otherwise, man, once someone places a bad hairline, you got to move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the journey to repair that hairline was not easy. Doing laser sessions. It was before surgery. It was probably 2 years of doing laser sessions.
It's fucking brutal, man.
Yeah.
So what is your
Wow.
what did your original physician say? I mean, are you still in touch with him? Have you provided him updates about what you had to go through? Were you able to get a refund of any kind?
So, like initially, I did, contact the clinic. I went and I saw him. He was just saying, we'll do another one, free of charge, this and that. And I just didn't, just like you said, once you get fucked up, it's just not, you just don't believe in him. So, I contacted the clinic, and then, they pretty much gave me like a partial refund.
Okay.
And I just went on my way. I was like, all right, fuck,
That's reasonable. That's reasonable. The fact that they did something to help you move on that's not bad.
Yeah, I really don't think the guy is out to hurt patients. I don't get that impression.
Probably not.
But it's just the skills. The skill set is just, it's just not there.
You either have the ability, you have the hands and the experience, or you don't. And there's also a sense of aesthetics. Some people just have shitty aesthetics, man.
Exactly. And I didn't want to, just ruin his career and go online and just, go crazy on him.
Right.
So I just, took a step back. But I was like, I'm not going back there.
But that's also a normal. That's also a very normal reaction to, or a reaction of a normal person, of a kind of an evolved human being. Sometimes the shit that I see online is just like, Jesus, man. You could have done your research. If you did more due diligence, not you, but other people. This may not have happened. Shit happens in life. This is an elective procedure that you were elected to have, and you chose the physician. So when I see people going online just to try to destroy people's reputations, I'm like, there's probably better ways to get past this. You know what I mean? So
the only person I could blame at that point was me. I'm the one that went with him.
Well, but I'm proud of you. I think that really speaks to your character. So good for you.
Yeah. So and it was just like the whole situation was, just something that I was like, all right, I gotta get this fixed. So at that point, it wasn't just the fame in him. It was like, all right, well, I'm the one with the bad hairline. So, I went to see that. Like, I probably saw almost every doctor. I mean, like in the area that was on your IHRS website. I pretty much went to go see. And just the vibe I got from Dr. Charles, I thought he was a no bullshit type of doctor. and went with him. And he also had the laser machine, which was a plus that a lot of other doctors didn't have. So I was like, okay, I can, kill two birds with one stone here.
So, okay, first of all, I'm glad that you had a good experience. So what's your next question? Where are you at right now?
So right now, the question I basically had was that, so the result I had was good. I'm probably like 2 years out from the result. I would say the main issue I have right now is just the hairline. Like, since I had that bad hairline work, there's still like a few areas, especially like in the temple area, where I want more density. So basic question I have for you guys is that if I've already gone through 2 strips and my donor scar is pretty good, like it's not, visible, my barber could barely see it. Nice. Should I elect to go FUE just because, the risk of, having like a small FUE procedure to kind of address that issue, or go back in and do a strip since I've been healing pretty well from actually both the strips were good.
Well, look, I think anytime you go in and you take another cut, your scalp is tighter now, and it's possible to have more stretch back. But that's really something you need to discuss with Dr. Charles, because he's going to give you an honest assessment. He does both strip and FUE, and he probably makes more money doing FUE anyway. So, if he wanted to do FUE on you originally, he probably would have not given you an extra strip. You know what I mean? So I would say that he's going to give you a very honest assessment of whether or not you're going to make a good candidate for another strip procedure. But I'm going to let Joe speak to this, because Joe has seen a lot of people who've made these choices, and he's seen results, that are both good and bad. So go ahead, Joe.
Well, that's basically it. Like you can't predict how they're going to turn out. Like it's a matter of quitting while you're ahead, or do you move forward and literally risk it? Like it all depends on your comfort level. Like you're happy with the way things turned out now, right?
Yeah, no, so far, besides these small, because at the end of the day, I feel like it's very minute, like details that need to be done. It's not like I need to go in and take out, 2,000 grafts, or not even probably 1,500 grafts, probably more like between 800 to 1,200, I would imagine. So I was thinking that FUE might be a bit more just non-invasive in terms of compared to the strip.
Well, it is less. It is going to be less invasive, and if you don't need a lot of grafts moved, and if you've already had 2 strips, that means that you have, virgin FUE area that could be moved above and below your current scar, and it's possible that Dr. Charles is going to recommend that, and you should talk to him about that. Tell him what your concerns are. Tell him that you don't want to. You feel really comfortable with the current strip scar, and if he believes that there's a significant risk in having a third, and what procedure he thinks might be better given your current circumstance. Yeah. I wish I could give you an answer and say, don't have the strip, go for FUE, but he may take a look at your scalp and say, you have really good elasticity right now, and we can move more with the strip, and then we could always, if you need more in the future, then we can go FUE.
Yeah. So I won't be losing much if I do go FUE, like if I decide to go FUE just for like those 800, 1200. I always hear you guys talk about how it's always better if you've already gone the strip route to just, pretty much max it out, the strip weight, because you could probably harvest the most hair you're ever going to harvest. But
within reason,
would I be losing much?
If you feel comfortable with taking the risk, because every time you go in for a strip, it is a risk that the outcome of the donor scar won't be ideal. Doesn't matter whose hands it is. For instance, I was actually thinking about this while you're just talking a few seconds ago. My own case with Dr. Wong, my third hair transplant with him, I had stretch back in the occipital region.
I got to get that gong sound, man. I got to do that. Go ahead.
It was probably 0.5 centimeter wide in the very back, and so my 4th surgery was actually a scar revision, where he just cut out the back of my donor scar, and it healed up great after that. But he wasn't going for hair. There's like a probably 150 grafts that were taken. There's always some hair that needs to be transplanted, a small number with a scar revision, unless they're thrown away, and you never want to throw them away. So, yeah, I mean, even in his hands, the back of my donor scar stretched, and he did fix it. It did turn out great, and then eventually we put some FUE into it, and that helped even further. And it's very difficult to find to this day. But when you're going into a clinic like Dr. Charles, like he's going to tell you what he thinks from his gut and from his heart. He's not like he's not in there to push things. He's not just trying to make money on you, because he's already got you as a patient. So he's going to tell you what he feels is best for your case. And I think that like Spencer said, if Dr. Charles feels that you have the laxity and you've been healing nicely, then a conservative additional strip to get out X number of grafts, nothing wrong with that, just as long as you understand it may not be so perfect as far as the donor healing this time compared to last time. It may be better, who knows? Chances are it'll be fine, give or take a little bit of a variation. But just keep that in the back of your mind. Like it may warrant some sort of addressing in the future, maybe with some FUE into the donor scar. Who knows? But to keep that availability for FUE down the road, it's better to get a few more, or at least one or two more strips under your belt, in my opinion, before you go that route. Especially because you are. And forgive me if you mentioned your degree of hair loss, but I think that if you're happy with where you are now, and it can be relatively similar to where it is now with a subsequent procedure, and then you're set for the areas on top of your scalp, then do that and then quit while you're ahead, or at least consider it.
All right, brother. Listen, man, we wish you the best of luck. I'm really glad that you had a good result and a good repair work with Dr. Charles. Look, anytime you go under the knife, even if you're getting FUE, every surgery you take a risk. However, you seem to be doing pretty well, and I know that he's going to give you a very honest assessment.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. Take
Appreciate
care.
it.
Bye-bye.
No worries.
Have a good one.
I normally don't put both headsets in because it kind of distracts me, but I got to tell you, man, we both sound pretty booming when I have both earbuds in.
Well, we're booming kind of guys.
So do we have time for one more call? You want to call it a night?
We started late, so let's carry on.
Okay, last caller. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hey, man, what's up? Who's this?
It's me from Kazakhstan, but I think you should get another call. I'm not going to waste your time. That hair boutique is still there.
Why'd you call and then say you don't want to waste our time?
Why'd you call if you just want to give up your spot? It doesn't make sense.
I was calling and I was listening to your conversation, and I just forgot that I was calling.
Okay,
I listened to your
well, we have you on the air now, so if you'd like to ask a question, we're here for you, man.
Listen, I kind of hesitating because I forgot. Okay, so now I believe I have two options. So I'm gonna go to some mega session, or I'm going to go to 2 operations. So I have to plan it now and wait all the risks. For mega session, I will have to choose a good specialist, which is at now I'm thinking of Headingham, and I spoke to Dr. Misano today.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, and I forgot to ask him a couple of questions, but I think I figure out now that I had to ask him.
Okay, so ask Joe. See what Joe can do for you.
Well, so working at Joe's example with first operation with Dr. Wong, yeah, he covered your area more or less evenly, right? He covered it such that if you don't want to continue to do other operations, your entire area is covered more or less, right?
No. He did the frontal zone. He did not do the crown. In fact, no. My very first repair surgery with Dr. Wong.
But I saw.
He only did the front to the mid scalp. Yeah, that was just to hide the old work that I had, and that very first surgery got me to the point where I looked fairly normal, like I wouldn't stand out in the crowd as having had a bad hair transplant. The second surgery is what gave me coverage into the back and gave me some temple points.
Yes, okay. But after second operation, you would go without any additional operation. You could, right?
I could have. I could have. Oh, yeah. Easily.
Yeah. So in following operations, he covered another parts of your head, or he increased density. I mean, what does it mean by increasing density? So a doctor implanted some hair on some area, and then he implanting some another grafts around this already implanted grafts before, which is, I think, is very complicated
into the same area
to me, because you can damage. But you can
exactly
damage those,
okay. So let me stop you. I know where you're going with this. So, yeah, when you're going into an area that's already been transplanted, or there's native hair that hasn't completely fallen out, and you don't want to kill it from a transection with the blade or the needle, you do need to shave the scalp. And what this does. And this is something that better clinics do, and the reasoning why is because when you shave the scalp down to 2 millimeters, give or take, the exit angle of the scalp is clear. There's no question about the angle and direction of how that hair is exiting the scalp. So what this allows you to do as the practitioner is you can make the incision parallel to that angle and direction. And when you're doing that, you're safely making the incision, where if the incision is not parallel and it crosses over the path of a neighboring hair, then you've transected that neighboring hair, and there's no gain, there's no loss, because you've lost one hair, but you're gaining another from the transplant. So it makes no improvement, and in many cases you can kill multiple neighboring hairs with one incision, and you have a net loss from the procedure. And this does not even touch on the issue of permanent shock loss from the procedure. So I'm a big believer in second passes. I'm a big believer in breaking up big surgeries into small surgeries, but not so much for adding density, but for adding the coverage. Because you're talking about going to Dr. Merceneau, and I think the world of Sever and his wife Laura. I think they're fantastic people. I think they're supremely talented at what they do. Like, there's just a certain approach that they take that very few clinics take, and they do it very well. They're very good at what they do, and I think very highly of them. But one thing I don't agree with regarding their approach and that of even my last clinic, the clinic I used to work in, Hassan Wong, other clinics that are known to do big sessions. What I'm not a fan of are the big mega sessions, 6,000 grafts and higher, because even though it's rare, there are cases where the grafts don't grow as healthily as they should or as plentiful as they should, where another surgery is necessary to fill the areas that were supposed to have been filled in the first pass, and that is simply a waste of hair. So I'm a big believer in the approach that I've had, where if there's a large area of loss, you break it up into 2 sessions. You do the first session and leave room for a second session. And this not only gives the donor hair a stronger fighting chance of survival, but it also gives you and the doctor, the patient and the doctor, a better chance to evaluate how to do that second surgery. Because maybe you want to tweak the hairline a little bit. Maybe you'll be happy without even having a second surgery. Maybe you're happy, like the back is fine the way it is. I never see it unless I look for it in the mirror. I'm happy with the front. I don't need to spend the extra $10,000 or euros or whatever. That's a very distinct possibility. I've seen it happen many times. So, second surgeries for adding density. That's also a possibility where you don't go super high density in the first session of trying for 70 grafts per square centimeter or higher. That's not a necessary approach. Most times patients are perfectly happy with mid-40s, low 50s in one pass, and they call it a day. They don't want to do anything more. But going in and having a second surgery for density, there's nothing wrong with that if the clinic has a proven track record of being able to do that on a consistent basis.
Well, thank you very much for that. It sounds very logical. So the conclusion is, so now I'm thinking about doing 2 operations and dividing the surface into big major parts. First part is, let's say, front and middle, and cover it with the maximum density. So for the second operation, I will cover another part, and there will be less chances to damage. Yeah, you said that if they do it in parallel and having 3 millimeters, but still, it sounds very, very complicated, and I think there is the chance of damage is pretty high. That's why
it's not with experienced clinics. I'm telling you, I've seen it too many times.
Come on, man.
Like, I know exactly how to do it myself. Like, I know exactly how to make those incisions, angle, direction, matching those of the neighboring hairs. Because remember, you're following the direction that nature has already provided as an example with the native hair that's already there. Even finer hairs that are hard to see, when they're shaven, they're still sticking up. And when the practitioner is wearing magnification, usually 6X or 8X loops, they look like magnifying glasses that jewelers wear, that you see in jewelry shops. That's why they're called jewelers' loops. But they are medical devices. But you can see everything really nice. And angle direction is jumping out at you. And when you got your tool to make the incision, it looks huge in your hand. And there's no way, well, I can't say no way, but there's a very high probability of success when you're in the hands of someone like that that's been doing this day in and day out for 20 years. Like, it's a very unique concept. Honestly, few clinics do understand this the way that they should. I can attest to that. But when it comes to Hattingen, they get it. They get it. That's shaving down and being able to go in between existing hairs. There's nothing wrong with that. There is a threshold where it can be too dense already, but then why would you want any more?
All right, brother. Listen, I hope Joe was able to answer your questions, man.
Well, as always.
Okay. Well, listen, I think that you are in a good position as far as, who you've decided. I know you haven't made a final decision, but you're absolutely going in the right direction. You've done a lot of research. You're asking all the right questions. I think Joe's assessment, again, I'm not a physician, but I think Joe's suggestions are the way to go. And I'm not a fan of a one and done, in quotes, procedure. A lot of times they don't work out.
So main conclusion was, don't go to Giga session if you can go for 2 operations. So at least this is when we are
in general. Yeah,
in general,
that's the approach I prefer.
This is too risky. And thanks for saying that you are disagree about something with some famous doctors. I like when you say that.
Well, thank you. I know it's a strange concept for people that are being paid by someone to disagree with them, especially in this industry. But look, every doctor I work with, they know that I have my own opinions. Same with Spencer. Like we have our opinions about the surgery based on our own experience, our own research, and what I think is common sense, what he thinks is common sense, our logical.
And fuck them if they can't take a joke. Listen, man, we're going to call it a night. Good luck. We're going to be here next week if you want to call us. All right, brother?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, May. Take care. Have a good night.
See you, May.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
He called in, he waited on hold, and then he didn't want to talk. I had to get something out of him.
And he sounded like he was heartbroken that we had to go. Because I know there were more questions. May, you are a well of questions, and I certainly appreciate it. But you can always call back next week. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
And people like when you call.
Right. And I have to eat, so I got to go. Guys, all the websites are in the description area on Joe Tillman's
you got it. Yes.
YouTube channel, the Hair Transplant channel, which is youtube.com/hair transplant mentor. When are you going to change that to /hair transplant channel?
I don't know. Maybe I'll do it after this. We'll see. I think I can change it. Yeah, I can still change it.
That may be a good idea.
I should. Yeah, not a bad idea.
All right, guys, listen, thank you so much for hanging out. Anyone who's listening to this podcast, again, go to Joe Tillman's channel. All the websites are there. You can check it out. I'm not even going to bother giving it out, except, I'll give out IAHRS.org, AmericanHairLoss.org, and HairTransplantMentor.com. Also want to thank everyone who promotes this broadcast. And I know that we have Hair Loss Cure 2020 in the chat. Thank you so much, man. And Mr. Alondis is okay, too.
He's all right.
He's all right. All right, guys, listen. Until next time, we love him. He's a good kid. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Take care.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you.